after messing with these massive machines. So guys, just leave them alone. Accept the failure. Don't try to cheat. Some of them weigh 750 pounds. They can't be bargained or reasoned with.
I struggled to get hard when I was in my 20s for psychological reasons. It was honestly the worst.
Why are you eating sand?
They don't feel remorse or fear, and if you mess with the wrong one, they will terminate you. Alright, this next guy's death maybe shouldn't be on this list, but the man himself, he should. He deserves to be talked about forever. Number 15. When a man named Frano Salak did karaoke and sang, "I Will Survive," people listened. What's interesting is not so much how this guy died, but how many times he almost lost his life in very rare circumstances. In 1962, a train he was traveling on derailed, and after falling into the water, he was fished out and survived while 17 others died. He only suffered broken bones and hypothermia. In 1963, he took a flight in his native Croatia to see his sick mom. A door malfunctioned while he was in the air and he was pulled out, only to land on a haystack and survive. 19 others weren't so lucky. A few years later, a bus he was traveling on crashed and it veered off into a river. Again, he got out, but 4 others didn't. He later had 2 car accidents, and both times the vehicles blew up, and both times he survived. In 1995, he was walking when he was hit by a bus, and he came out of that with just cuts and bruises. And a year later, his car was hit head-on by a United Nations truck. He was thrown through the windscreen over a cliff, but survived by grabbing hold of a tree branch. Sometime later, when he was 73, he won the lottery, taking home about $800,000. He'd already retired from his job as a music professor, so he bought a boat and lived pretty darn well. He gave a fair chunk of his winnings away, too. As for his luck, he once said, "I'm going to enjoy my life now. I feel like I've been reborn. God has been watching over me all these years. The devil has moved on to torment someone else." Some media have questioned his stories, but those that know him say he told the truth. He once said this about his buddies: "There came a stage when I was lucky to have any friends at all. Many stopped seeing me, saying I was bad karma." He died in 2016, aged 86, but we can't find the cause of death. As we said, what's interesting here is how rare some of his accidents were, so let's talk about the freakiest one. Number 14. We guess you've all seen those movies where a window or a door breaks on a plane and people get sucked out, their bodies sometimes being broken up as they're forced through such a small place. But that's the movies. Surely, no one gets sucked out of airplanes. The odds of dying in a plane crash are low, and nothing close to the odds of dying in a motor vehicle accident in the U.S., which according to the National Safety Council is 1 in 102. The same study said dying in a train crash is 1 in 178,741. The odds for dying on a commercial aircraft because of a crash or some other kind of plane malfunction is 1 in 29.4 million. That's rare, but getting sucked out of a window or a door while everyone around you is screaming like mad is even rarer, especially when you're the only one to go. It's happened, but it really is unusual, since there are 3 layers in the window, and even if you wanted to break it, you'd have to do a fair bit of banging with a hammer. So yes, very, very rare. But it's what happened in 2018 to a retired nurse named Jennifer Reardon. She was traveling on a Southwest Airlines flight when a bit of the engine broke and smashed into the window next to where she was sitting. She was almost immediately stuck to the hole and looking like she was about to go through. Other passengers, described as heroic, tried to pull her to safety, but the force of it killed her. She didn't leave the plane, but she was half in, half out. This is not frequent danger, one expert later said. A lot of research work was done in the 40s and 50s to make sure it wasn't a danger. Double-skinned windows and precautions like that. Mainly this kind of thing would happen when there's a hole in the fuselage. That happened on a plane going from LA to Sydney in 1989, and 9 folks ended up in the sky. There have also been cases of people going through broken doors, but again, this is about as rare comes. Let's now talk about your favorite thing, poop. Number 13, can pooping kill? The answer is yes, but you'd be 1 in a few million if it happened to you. We don't mean just dying on the throne from some other thing, such as a heart attack, but when pooping is the reason for the death. It can happen after something called defecation syndrome, which in layman's terms literally means pooping fainting. It's so rare that the U.S. National Institutes of Health says it is infrequently described in the literature. That paper explained that some people bear down to increase the pressure in the rectum. Hence, you've all tried to squeeze one out, as the saying goes. The paper added, the increase in the pressure of the rectum calls for closure of the epiglottis, tightening of the diaphragm, tightening the muscles of the chest wall, and stimulation of the parasympathetic nervous system. This can cause a rapid drop in blood pressure and less blood getting to the brain, and before you have time to think, in some people at least, it's lights out. The paper talked about a 55-year